Welcome back. Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, we have an exciting brand new application that we're going to go over in Adobe, and it is called Illustrator. Illustrator is the vector-based program that Adobe offers, which is super awesome for creating logos and vector graphics. Vector graphics can be blown up and decreased in size without any distortion. So all your graphics and packaging pretty much in the entire world, like Gatorade, that logo made in Illustrator, this drinking water, probably that area is made in Illustrator. My little SanDisk chip here, that stuff was all made in Illustrator. A little flash drive thing here, that logo is made in Illustrator. Oh, that's lovely. All this, very bad lighting. Just imagine you see like a label here, but it's all done in Illustrator. Okay, everything. Sharpies, all that's done in Illustrator. A screwdriver, I bet you this was done in Illustrator. Another pen. Do you get my point? Pretty much everything in the world, this probably was laid out in Illustrator. All these numbers and everything. Do you hear what I'm saying? Okay, so I think you get it. So if it wasn't done in Illustrator, it was probably done in Photoshop and or both. So I'm going to teach you a little bit about it. This week's assignment is going to be create a logo, and then take that logo and make it into a business card as well. Okay, so here we go. Okay, here we go. So you're opening up this program that's got this little icon, which stands for Adobe Illustrator. So you're going to open up Adobe Illustrator. You're going to see this. I'm going to hit Create New to create a new file. It will then have this new document window that comes up, and I'm just going to pick a square. It really doesn't matter because we're going to size it up and size it down for whatever we need. I am going to give it a file title. I'm going to call this logo demo. That's good enough. Okay, we're going to hit create, and that will launch us into this world. So this is where the cool thing about Illustrator, I'm hitting Command negative, or you can use your magnifying glass to come in or out, but I'm going to start off with showing you how to do a logo. I think we should start with just basic shapes here. So if I were to take, this has basic shapes here, so a rectangle is what this has right here. And if I hold down, it's got some other shapes here that you can mess with that are basic shapes, okay? And so we're going to be using that. This is the pen tool. If you hold down, it has different pen tools, but this one at the top is the master pen tool. That is for creating all sorts of wild shapes, okay? And this is our fill. This is whatever color you want that thing to make. So for example, I want to double click it, and let's say I choose this beautiful color. I'm going to hit OK. And this swatch right here is your stroke, which means your outline. So I can have this shape that I just created with the pen tool, and if I grab my selection tool, it will just show it like this. Do you see that it's got a black outline? If I don't want a black outline, I can click on it and press this icon which says none. I have to have it selected though, which I just did with my move tool. I just selected it. Now if I hit none, now do you see it has no black stroke? So to select things, this is the deal. You got to use your move tool or your selection tool and click on it. And then to unselect it, you can just click anywhere on the canvas and it'll unselect it. Okay, so this is the pen tool, and you can create some cool stuff with it. Let's just create a basic logo here. Let's just create a bunch of shapes, and I want to just show you the process. If I select this shape that I just made in the pen tool, I can again go over here to the swatch. If I were to hit that, it would change the stroke, which I don't have a stroke. Or if I click this fill and double click it, I can change that. Okay? So again, I can take my pen tool again and maybe create this situation and double click, maybe pick a different color, and now I kind of have this like 3D box looking thing. So that's a tiny bit about the pen tool. And the pen tool is cool because you can take the master pen tool, which what I was just using, or you can add more anchor points or delete anchor points. Let's try deleting one and show you what that does. The way you know you're going to delete it is it's got this little negative next to it. And if I click on one of these anchor points, it will delete the anchor point. I'm going to hit undo by pressing Command Z. And I'm going to go back to the move tool. Okay. So, let's put this off to the side. Actually, let me show you something. Grouping. So, let's say I wanted to take this box and just move it over here like this. Well, it only took the top of the box. So it's got grouping, so you can select everything you want in the group by clicking down, holding, and dragging like a box over everything. Or you can click, hit shift, click, click, and then you have everything you want in that group. So to make it a group, I have to right click and hit group. Okay. Now when I grab this box, it's all kind of glued together. Okay, it all stays together. Alright, so that's really important to know. Because you're going to be creating a bunch of series of shapes, some of which you're going to want to stick together, some of which you will not. Okay. Again, remember this white direct selection tool will let you just modify one node at a time, and or if you select more than one by hitting shift, clicking, and clicking, you can select more than one node. Okay, I'm going to hit undo. So keep in mind, you can do that. You can use you can really modify things. I can drag and select over a whole corner and mess with like a whole corner, okay? And let's say I wanted this to kind of have like some perspective, like it's coming out at me. Now this is, let's say I wanted to select this interior, I can't just kind of like go like that. But what you can do is you can hit Command Y and it'll give you a wireframe mode. And then I can drag a square over this one little section I want to select. I can hit Command Y again and it'll get me back to my color mode. And then I can adjust those things, these nodes in this little group. Okay? Cool stuff. It's still grouped together. If I ever want to ungroup it though, I can press right click and you will see instead of it saying group, it'll say ungroup. Now they are back to being independent components. Undo, undo, undo. But I want to group these together. So right click, group. Okay, I'm going to put this off to the side and show you a little something else. When I build logos, I like to just have like a whole boneyard of like stuff that I've been making, and I'll put stuff off to the side here and just kind of work in this area. So you can do whatever you want. So let's talk about this rectangle tool. I can hit shift to make it a perfect square as I drag it out, or I can just use my left button and on my mouse and create rectangles. Undo, undo, undo is what I just did. Now, let's say I want to take a ellipse tool, and I held down to get to my ellipse tool. I held down anything that has an arrow right here. Means you can hold down, and there's other tool options within that, so you can get a drop down. So here's an ellipse tool. I can, again, same thing, just make an ellipse, or I can hold shift and make a perfect circle. Okay, so let's say you wanted to cut one shape out of another shape. Let's say you wanted to cut this ellipse out of this square. I have to select my ellipse. I can hit shift and select my square. I'm using the selection tool. Both of these are selected. Over here, you will see Pathfinder, or over here you will see Pathfinder. If I were to click that open, it gives you whether you want to cut it away, weld it together, intersect, all these like options. Okay, so this is Illustrator. If I cut it away, it's going to look like that. Undo. If I unite it, it's going to be all welded together like that. It's all one piece. Okay, and intersect is going to do just the intersecting shape. And then what's this one do? Exclude. So that'll be the exterior, or the opposite of the intersect. Okay, and these also do different things too. So you can mess with these a lot, and basically using these shapes and using this Pathfinder situation is how you're going to make the magic happen. Okay, so let me just, for example, whip out a quick little logo here. What I did, I want to show you what I just did. If I hover the move tool over this box, you'll see it has an arced arrow. That's how I can do this. If I hold shift, it'll go to its nearest, like 45 degree or 90 degree. Okay. I'm going to duplicate it. I can either do copy paste, or I can just hit the Alt button and it gives me this little double arrow, and I can drag out another one. Let's say I wanted to size that down a bit, put it right here, and select them both and hit the minus. Then I get this super cool shape right here. Okay. I can hit Alt again and drag up, and it'll duplicate it. Another cool thing is you can hit Command D, and it'll just repeat your last step. So I may just, this could be a logo right here, you know. I can change that color to that, and that color to that, and maybe, you know, maybe that could be a logo right there, who knows. So what else can I tell you about that? Let's see. So don't forget also, let's say I wanted the blue to be at the top. I can right click and arrange. Tells you that you can bring things forward, bring things back. But in this case, let's say I want to bring it to the front. Now my blue is at the very front. So keep that in mind. Between the process of using your pen tool and your basic shapes, using your Pathfinder, and using your right click, arrange, and bringing things forward and back, this is going to be how most designers get everything done. So here's another thing that they do, they being designers. Let's say I spread these dudes all out like this. If I select them all, up here we have the option to do alignments. Okay, so let's say I want a vertical alignment. Okay. Now do you see it moved it to the very top of the artboard? What I like to do is switch this little number right here. Instead of aligning it to the artboard, it's right here. I can tell it I want it to go to the align to the selection. So what does that mean? So what that means is when I'm designing and I have these things like, let's say they're not all equal, I can select all of them and be like, double click one more time on this middle one, and it gets like a thicker selection. And it's saying, okay, now when you hit these, it's gonna align to that thicker selection. So let's try that again. So let's say I got them all out of whack. If I select them all, I can double click on one of them. Let's say I double clicked on this one. I want them all to match the bottom of this one. So I'm going to hit this align vertical, align bottom, and they will come down to that. So your pen tool, your basic shapes, learning how to cut shapes out of other shapes, and using your alignment and your pathfinder combined with your swatches, you're going to be able to do some really amazing things. So, and then you can just toy with things. For example, here's a logo concept right here. But let's say I wanted them all to be blue. I can select them. Well, they're all blue right now. Let's say I wanted them all this color blue. I can select them all, take my eyedropper tool, and click the color I like, and they will all turn that color. So let's say I liked that. I can group it. I'm going to select them all, and I can right click and I can group them. Now they're all like together. So I'm going to put a copy over here. That'll be my boneyard, okay? Alright, I like that, I like that. Okay, let's say I like that. So let's say I want to mess with this a little more though. Let's mess with this a little more. I'm going to ungroup it. I'm going to get rid of everything I don't want. I just selected everything I didn't want and I hit delete. So let's say I wanted to kind of trick on this a little bit. I just took a circle and I want to align it centered, and I just did that. I selected them both and I centered them. And let's say I want to cut it away. So now I got this shape. Okay. And this is how I do my logo process. It's like I'll mess with shapes, sometimes taking the same thing over and over. Until I get something I like. And I'll usually put 8 concepts on a page and then send it to the client. But I may design 30 concepts and only choose 8 for the client to see. Okay, and let's say I had this big square and I wanted it like gray, but I wanted it in the background. Now here we go, watch this. I'm going to select all of them. If I hold shift, I can deselect anything I don't want, such as that gray circle. I just deselected it. Now I can hit right click and group these blue items. Now they're grouped together. Okay, let's say I wanted it like this. Now I want to show you, maybe my mind's thinking I would like to have like a blue circle. So I'm going to select my circle, pull it out here, and I can select the same blue, and this little icon will swap it to the stroke. Now it's a stroke, and up here is how you make the stroke thicker. Got that? Okay, but I want it dead center of this gray thing. But I want it a little smaller. But I want it dead center of the gray thing, so I'm going to press Shift, and now my gray circle is also selected. If I hit on the gray circle one more time, see it got the thicker selection, and I can align vertically and horizontally. Okay, so maybe that's a logo right there. We'll put that in the boneyard group. Put it over in the boneyard. Doesn't really show up that good on that, but let's mess with it some more and see what else we can do. This is what I want you guys to do, is you're messing with shapes. I don't care if you come up with the best logo in the world. I don't care if you're not a great designer. I just want you to mess with the shapes and create a logo. As you can see, it doesn't have to be that hard. So you can just keep adding to this if you wanted. So let's go to the pen tool. Let's take the pen tool, and if you hold down as you click down, you can drag out interesting shapes. So let's say I did something like this, and let's say I wanted it to be a little bit darker gray than what we have. Okay, and then I can use my Alt button to drag out a copy of it, and use my corner of the selection to get, using my move tool to get it switched around and moved around and whatnot. Okay, so that's kind of fun. Alright, I want to show you this as well. Let's say this stroke, there's a lot of things you can do with the stroke part. If I go up here to stroke, let's see. It has to be ungrouped though. So ungroup. If I go up here to the stroke, it'll tell me how thick this stroke is. Right now I have it at about 11. Or I can hit stroke and it'll bring up the stroke panel. And then you have a bunch of cool features, but you got this dashed line feature, and if I click that, it does that number. You see how they're all basically little rectangles. I can round them off by hitting that. I can change the size from 12 to 5. Let's go from 12 to 22. So if I make this larger in numbers, it makes the dash line larger. I'm all the way up to 40. And then here's your gap as well. So how much space does it have? 20. And then if I change that to like 40, what happens? So as you can see, you just gotta mess with it. But that gives you some dash situations. I've used this before to make imitate stitching, thread stitching. Now that you know how this is done, you'll pick up on this a bunch in the real world. You'll look at labels a lot differently, and you'll be like, he used the dash on that. Has to be selected to edit it though. The shape you're talking about has to be selected if you want to edit it though. Let's go back to 12, and let's go to like 2, see what that looks like. So it's so tight you can't even tell. 15. Alright, so I mean that gives you the idea. But I like it solid, so I'm going to undash it. Okay, let's say in the center I just wanted a nice circle. But let's say I can't really get it centered because I'm just not getting it. I'm going to pick this same gray with my eyedropper tool. If I wanted it centered in this circle, I can take another selection of this guy, click it one more time, and tell it, hey, I want it horizontally aligned and I want it vertically aligned. And now they will be perfectly aligned. Is this perfectly aligned? Now it is. And so you're just gonna kind of mess with these shapes, do some cool stuff. So that's how you do like a basic logo. We'll put that in the boneyard again. Group. And we'll put it in the boneyard over here. So let me, before I move on to another technique, I just want to show you a little bit more about cutting out shapes. Let's do another logo. Let's say I did like some wacky like sometimes I'll do a weird shape like this and take my white arrow and kind of pull things around, and if you hit Alt and drag it out, you can duplicate that shape you just made. You can hit you can mirror it by going like this. Use your rotate tool. I guess that just rotates it. And then your reflect tool will reflect it and or mirror it. So notice that I held down, I can get rotate, or if I hold down, I can get reflect. Okay, so these might be some shapes that I want to get into. So you've probably seen, like, let's say if somebody had a Spartan mask. Let's say the client said, hey, I want a Spartan mask. I'm going to take my pen tool, sorry, and I'm going to make like a Spartan mask. You can just do one side, is my point, and use your Alt button, and then use your rotate button. I have a hotkey set up to where you can set up hotkeys too if you want. Under keyboard shortcuts, you can make any of these things do anything you want. But you can use your reflect tool, and let's say somebody wanted a quick Spartan logo. I just want to show you how you can do that really quickly. And then they say, hey, I want some horns on it. You can easily do that. And we're using your Alt button and your mirror button. So let's say I wanted these horns on this head perfect. I can group these guys together and take these guys, group them together, and now I can select them both, but they're independent groups. See that? They're independent groups. These two are connected, these two are connected. So I can select them both and then hit center. And see, I didn't have it perfectly centered, so now it is perfectly centered. Because I hit align. I hit horizontal align. Okay. And then let's say I think that that's not looking right. I can take my white, select my white direct selection tool and select just this little node and bring that up a little. Holding shift will let me go straight up. And then you got that action. So let's say I wanted to merge all these. I can select them all like I just did with my selection tool, and I can go to Pathfinder and click that and it will merge them. Great. Okay. But let's say I wanted to just merge this one, and then maybe I want a white stroke so that you can see. Okay, so check that out. So I just added a white stroke to these horns to tell the viewer, hey, this is in front. And then I could take some designs and take my pen tool and I can design around, but let's say I didn't want my interior gray, I want just the white line, just the white stroke. Now I have just the white stroke because look, my fill has this red X or this red mark, which means it's clear. Okay? And now I can, let's say, add some design work here, a little bit of design work. Let's say it was like something real simple. Somehow if you're in the midst of drawing with the white, let's say like I just did, I was drawing with white. If I accidentally hit this gray back here, it's going to change my swatch. So if you're all of a sudden drawing and your color changes, you might have just clicked a different color. Because whatever you click last, that's what it's going to paint. So for example, if I click the white line again, now the white line's selected, or the white stroke I should say, and I can go back to doing my thing. All right, so let's say that was all the design I wanted. You know what? Let's say we wanted a little more up here too. And you can use your selection tool and your alt tool and okay. So let's say as you change your stroke and height, it'll also change the thickness. So you might have to go back and let's say you all wanted all of them at one, a stroke size of 1. You're going to need to switch it to a stroke size of 1. Now they're all, well, I like 2 better. Now they're all the same stroke thickness and it's uniform. So I have all my strokes selected right now. I can go to stroke and make this a rounded cap. I know it's hard to see, but it is rounded now. You also have the ability to add arrowheads and all of these things. Let me show you one. We used to use this all the time in sign schematic productions to show the production crew how to build things. And so you would have a lot of bullet points and things like that using these arrows. See how it just put it on the ends? So I don't know how you're going to use those or if you'll use them, but in manufacturing we use those a lot. But as you can see, you can change it to anything. Not anything. Anything in this category. Okay, and if I loved those things that I just made, I can select just them and group them, and they'll all move together now that they're grouped. I can hit Alt and or use our Reflecto tool here and perfectly reflect it. Okay, so maybe it's a Spartan Computers or something, and now you have like a logo that you could pitch to them. I'm going to group this together, put it in the boneyard. So look at that. As I put it on gray, you want to think about this. Is your logo going to show up on anything? Your logo should show up well on anything, so you need to prepare for that. So if I were going to see this problem, and when I say problem, I mean if I put it on gray, it doesn't show up good. So I might want to add a stroke to this as well. Okay, and something that would be cool to show you is I can take all of this, duplicate it, make it all just one shape by going to the Pathfinder, and it's just one solid shape. Let's get our stroke to not do anything weird, like we don't need any, we need it to say none. Okay, so I can go to object and take the path, and you can offset the path. So what does that mean? It's going to offset it just a little bit. If I hit offset path, this icon will come up, or this window will come up. And if I hit preview, I can see what it's going to do. Okay, so let's say I said, yeah, that looks good to me, and I hit OK. Now it has just created basically a offset path, and let me show you how that would be useful. So let's say I wanted that to be in the background. I go to Arrange, Send to Back. So you see how that can be useful. Now, do I like the way these tips are and all that? Not really. So I mean, I could change that. Let me show you. Let's say I wanted to change that. I can add an anchor point right here on my pen tool. And so if I click right on there and then grab my white arrow, my white tool, and I can put these tips back in there the way I would like that to be. That looks a little better. And let's say I did not want the I section to have a negative space, so I can go and hit my pin delete anchor point, and I can delete some of these anchor points that I do not desire. Okay. And I might be thinking this thing's too long, so I can select them all and just shape it up like that. So you just learned about the offset path tool, adding anchor points, deleting anchor points. Let's talk about another cool feature, which is, let's select this green color, and let's mess with this over here. It's called the appearance. If you don't see it, you can go to Window, Appearance. What that's going to pop up is this thing, and you got these options to do some effects. So let's add an effect. So let's add, if you go to Stylize, it'll give it some style. Alright, so I can do Drop Shadow, which this little icon will come up. Make sure you hit Preview so that you can see what it's going to do. And do you see that awesome drop shadow that just appeared? And I can do it, mess with where it's at, how big it is, and the opacity. So like 0.2 and 0.2. Okay, so that's your drop shadow. That's a sweet one. I love that one. Okay, let's cancel that. Let's go to Effects, which is under Appearance. Effects. Let's go to Stylize, and let's go to Outer Glow. So for Outer Glow, let's hit Preview. And look at that. It gives you a sweet outer glow. So these are the kind of things I want you to use in a logo. Let's pull up MikeMorganDesigns.com and look what. Let's look at some of my logos. The reason why is you're going to be able to dissect my skills. MikeMorganDesigns.com. So if you, well, look at these car fire stickers I did. These were all done in Illustrator. So you see I got a drop shadow on some of this stuff. I used the stroke. Okay. All using the pen tool and basic shapes. Let's go to logo design and just look at some of these logos. Okay, so I don't expect you guys to make crazy logos like some of these are, like, you know, very in depth. Okay, I'm okay with very simple logos. So I just, you know, but look how crazy it can get, like, or how simple it can be. This octopus, I used that. Here, let's click this open. Like this octopus one, I used mirroring and drew it with the pen tool and stroke, and very simple, and used some cool color, and it was awesome. Okay, so again, the wolves, a lot of that is just mirroring, making shapes and mirroring them or reflecting them. So you can go to my page here and take a look if you want. I want to look at a couple other logos. Basic logos, images. So all your icons, these are all made in Illustrator. Look at Apple's, look at Adobe's logo. These are all very, very simple and very well done. So if you need ideas, go to Google and check out how simple or crazy a logo can be. There's a beautiful set. Fun, neat. I love that. Anyways, so do your homework, do your make a logo. Keep in mind, if you're gonna create a business for real, or if you already have a business for real, feel free to make this logo and this in your business card that you're gonna do for any real life promotion that you want to do. It can be fiction, it can be real, whatever you want. But it'd be even more beneficial if you were using it for a real life application. That would be awesome. I'd love to see that. So if you're thinking about starting a business, your logo is like one of the first things you want to think about. Okay, so let's quickly talk about how we can export these logos. Let's say I wanted just this one right here. Oh, let me do some text above it. I just hit T for text. Let's say I call it well, let's call it our class CIS-73 Intro to Adobe. So let's say I raised that up, centered it. Now, you guys probably already know this, but you go up here to change the text. design. Let's say I pick something really simple and nice. Okay, so that, maybe I want just CIS 3 at the top, or CIS 73 at the top. Maybe I want Intro to Adobe just at the bottom. What I wanted to show you real quick was that you can arc these by using this. You can warp it. You can go to Effect and Warp, and you can arc these. This comes up, and how much you want to arc it and which way. These are under your warp options, which was Window or cancel. Let me show you how to get there. You select what you want to affect, and you go to Effect, Warp, and Arc, or Arch, or Bulge, or Wave, or whatever you want to do. If you love the way it is, you can go to Object, Expand Appearance, and it will turn it into vector. A vector version. Okay, so maybe that's our logo right there. Although I hate that part. Let's just do Intro to Adobe. I don't think I arced it enough though. Let's try that again. Let me take this one. Give me a minute, folks. So let's say I want to arc that a little bit. I'm going to go to Warp and Arc. Let's do a little more. And then these do all kinds of weird stuff too. Okay, but I like to keep those at 0 pretty much. And again, if I like where it's at, and I'm not going to edit it anymore, I got to go to Object and expand the appearance. But however, now I cannot change the font, or I cannot change the font. I can change the color all day. So let's say I wanted it centered. How would I do that? I click that. I can click a circle. I can double click one more time. Not double click. Let me explain that better. I can select all of them. Click one more time on this one. It'll give you a thicker double selection. And then I'll hit horizontal align center. And now it'll be perfectly centered. So let's say that one logo I wanted to export or save it as a file for my client to see. Because if I send him the Illustrator file, he doesn't own Illustrator, or she doesn't own Illustrator. So they can't even look at it. So I'm going to take this artboard number. And what I did was I took this right here. It says artboard tool. And I'm going to create a new artboard right here. And so just everything in this artboard, which is called O2-artboard 3. This is artboard O2. See, it says it right there. I'm going to go export as, and then I can decide what I want it to be exported as. In this case, we'll do a PNG. Do I want to use the artboards? Yes. Otherwise, it'll do all of them. We'll just save it to my desktop, and I want to choose artboard 2. So this just came up. It says, hey, do you want the resolution to be 72 pixels per inch, or do you want it to be 300 pixels per inch? I like a little more resolution, so I'm going to do 300. Do I want the background to be transparent? Huh? Or do I want it to be white? Well, if you do transparent, it's cool because, well, then the background's transparent. It just looks more professional. and you can put it on anything, and it looks really cool. So what happened is it just saved to my desktop. I'm going to double click it and open it up, and this is what it looks like. Okay, it's showing black because it's just clear. If I kind of minimize it down, it's showing kind of a gray color, but it's clear. So, for example, let's say I took Susan's photo bash assignment, and I drug my logo onto it. Look at that. I have a clear background on my logo. Let's go over another way to save. I have my artboard here, artboard R2. Save a copy. You can also do save a copy as opposed to file export. You can also do save a copy, which is a different way, so that you can get like PDFs, EPSs, and different files like that. A PDF pretty much everyone can open. So let's click that. It's going to give you this with all your settings. You can either just hit save right now, or you can mess with it and go, oh, I want a high quality print, and do I want people to be able to edit it in Illustrator later on? Then you leave this checked. If not, you can uncheck it. And what that's going to do is save an Illustrator file for me, or a PDF file for me. And you can mail that to your client, email that to your client. Don't ever mail anything to your client. You're going to seem really weird. And if your client asks you to mail them something like a logo, just don't do business with them, because it's going to be really hard to deal with them if they're not computer savvy. Let's see, what else? Let's say you wanted to export a JPEG. Export as. I can hold this down, and is there a JPEG in here? Yes, JPEG. However, with a JPEG, you have to have a background color. It's going to default it to a white color. Again, JPEG options came up. I hit OK. But look what happens. I'm clicking it open right now. You can't tell. What happens is it gave me everything that was on basically my whole document. So if I went to File, Export, Export As, and I didn't click Use Artboard, so it's going to do everything on my whole document. So if I use Artboards and I told it, hey, I want to only do Artboard 2, then it's only going to export everything from Artboard 2, which, to be clear, is this artboard right here. If you're not sure what number artboard it is, you can go to here, and it says Artboards, click it open, and you can select around to different artboards. It's very hard to tell, but this border gets more black on the one that's selected. I can almost barely see it, and I know you can barely see it too, but right now I'm on you can title these too. You can title let's see, I want to call this artboard The One. Okay, so that way you don't get confused also. But to make it really easy, they've numbered them for you by default right here on this left-hand column. So now if I go to Export, Export As, I can use my artboard, and under Range I can do 2. And it'll give me JPEG options. I like those. I hit OK. And now right here on my desktop. I'm about to open it. It's right here. I'm going to open it up for you guys. And pow! There it is. So, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, you've learned how to create a logo in Adobe Illustrator and export it like a boss. Good job, guys. Now, I want you to go do it. I want you to do well. And call me if you got any questions or email me. And if you need me to meet up with you guys this week, let me know. This is part 1 of today's class. I'm now going to start part 2. Thank you.